This is a focus leader.
Do your movies look like this? Do your soundtracks sound like this? Or like this? If so, you need this.
A focus leader. First, set your lens so that these lines are sharp and clear on all parts of the screen. Now, set the volume control on your projector. The sound level should be adjusted until my voice can be clearly understood in all sections of the room. You are now ready to participate in another Pan American travel adventure.
United States of America, a place you've dreamed of visiting all your life. The cities you've heard of: New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, San Francisco, Niagara Falls, and other places to be discovered. Here we were, my wife and I, actually on our way. Not everyone can do it, but the lucky ones who can will remember it for the rest of their lives.
The round-trip fare itself cost us about $450. It could have been a lot less in a group, but we decided to go it alone. Then there we were in a first-rate comfortable hotel room for $10 a day and looking out at New York City. Where to go first? Why, sightseeing, of course. Radio City, the unbelievable skyscrapers.
And here we are, on top of one skyscraper, looking at a lot of others, including the tallest man-made structure in the world, the Empire State Building. Gives you a new perspective on people and things. Another stunning sight, the modern architecture at New York's International Airport. Here's another great way to go sightseeing in New York. We didn't need a guidebook to tell us who this was. Wall Street, the financial heart of the world. The United Nations building, but this calls for a closer look. Something to tell your grandchildren, that you sat and listened to the United Nations in session and watched your own delegate in action. But the political heart of America is 200 miles south of New York, and we decided to take the train. By the way, both the American and Canadian railroads gave us fare reductions of as much as 15%. 4 hours later, we were in Washington, D.C.
What a beautiful city Washington is. And a map does help you get the most out of it. Let's see. We should be right in front of the Lincoln Memorial, and there it is. All the famous historic sites in Washington are free. I loved the graceful lines of the Washington Monument.
555 feet high. $898 steps to the top.
We took the elevator and got a breathtaking bird's-eye view of the Capitol, the Thomas Jefferson Memorial, another angle of the Lincoln Memorial, and various other government buildings.
And perhaps the most exciting of all, the home of the president, the White House. We just had to see it close up. 34 American presidents have lived in this house since it was first opened in 1800. It is open to visitors, free, 5 days a week. If we hang about long enough, we might get to see the president.
Or his lady.
Now we headed south to Miami, Florida. We discovered that air travel is generally much cheaper in the USA than in Europe. About half, in fact. Special rates for tourists. And of course, any of these tickets can be bought at home at a further 10% saving.
But I was beginning to miss our automobile and found it didn't cost much to rent one by the week. About $5 to $9 a day, depending on the model, plus a few cents a mile. And gasoline, believe it or not, costs only about 30 cents a gallon. Miami Beach is famous for having the most luxurious luxury hotels in the world. Activity centers on the fantastic swimming pools. And you can sip a drink on the terrace like a millionaire.
In the States, you're never far away from the sound of exotic rhythms to remind you that this is the land where the twist originated. No one ever seems to do any work in Miami. Certainly not the visitors.
Not this visitor, anyhow.
Miami is crisscrossed with beautiful inland waterways. And over on the ocean side, you can find deep-sea game fishing that ranks with the finest in the world. Niagara Falls is another celebrated vacation spot, traditional goal of honeymooners. Niagara Falls is between the United States and Canada, one of the great natural wonders of the world, where the Niagara River roars over a precipice 175 feet high, 212,000 cubic feet of water per second for more than 500,000 years. Now, westward, Chicago.
I just couldn't resist snapping a few shots wherever we went. But fortunately, film is very cheap in the U.S.
Chicago is the second biggest city in America, and you get a great view of its skyscrapers from the top of the Tribune Tower. And sometimes, the viewer also provides the view. There seems to be a suggestion that the view might be even better from the top of the flagpole.
Sorry, not today. Too high.
Westward again by Greyhound's Scenic Cruiser. Another wonderful way to see America. And the cost is equally wonderful. A special offer to visitors from overseas. 99 days for $99. These are the famous Badlands of South Dakota. A primeval waste of rock and clay. Not a plant grows here, not a bush, not a tree, not a blade of grass. The Sioux Indians still live out here, and many still cling to old customs and traditions. Looking as ancient as one of the mountains he was born in, our guide points the way to a famous site, Mount Rushmore. These are the Black Hills of South Dakota, the highest mountains east of the Rockies. On Mount Rushmore, the gigantic sculptured faces of 4 great American presidents, Washington, Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Lincoln.
Just a few miles away, we visited an authentic survival from the Old West, Rockville, South Dakota. It became a ghost town when the gold rush suddenly petered out 100 years ago. And the fantastically dry air has preserved everything in perfect condition. Everything authentic but the cowboy.
At less than $3 a meal, we had been eating very well.
Too well.
Dinosaur National Park straddles the states of Utah and Colorado. 75 million years ago or so, prehistoric creatures like these were walking around alive right here in Utah. Next to western Colorado, to Mesa Verde. Long ages ago, cliff-dwelling Indians lived here, sun worshippers. Then about 1,000 years ago, they just disappeared. Nobody knows where or why. The modern Navajo Indians called them Anasazi, meaning the ancient people.
The National Park Service provides free guides to help visitors see everything worth seeing and explain the whole thing. They were just wonderful to us, and especially helpful when they found out we came from overseas. Many of the guides speak several languages. In fact, we never seemed to have any language problems. Communication was very easy. What could possibly have happened to the people who built these homes so cleverly? Only the silent mountains know the secret. In Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming, wild animals are tame and protected. The altitude here is over 10,000 feet, 2 miles above sea level.
Yellowstone has more than 100 geysers, And here's the most famous of them all, Old Faithful. Every 65 minutes since the world was young, she's been shooting this column of boiling water 165 feet in the air, 50 tons of water in about 4 minutes. Yellowstone has the world's grandest geysers, really a fantastic sight. People come from all over the world every year to see it. There are more than 3,000 of these hot sulfur springs in Yellowstone, a perfect setting for an expression of fantasy.
In the Teton Mountains of Wyoming, this typical silent mountain lake was made by a glacier millions of years ago.
We drove down to the state of Arizona through some breathtaking scenery and headed for one of the grandest natural sights in all America, the Grand Canyon. The guidebooks call it the greatest example of natural erosion and one of the most sublime spectacles in the world. More than a mile deep, 200 miles long, 18 miles wide. There is only one word for the Grand Canyon: incredible. What a feeling you get out west in America of just sheer space, room to breathe. Take Arizona, less than 500,000 people living in an area more than twice as big as England. If you explore the Grand Canyon, you can do it as the old-time prospectors did, on horseback or muleback. And the whole thing costs about $15, including the mule. The trip takes almost a day to get down to the very bottom of the canyon.
With us, of course, is the indispensable guide, a genuine character right out of a Western film.
A nation on wheels needs accommodations for automobiles as well as passengers. And so, everywhere along the American highway, we have the motel. Most of these have TV in every room and a swimming pool.
Las Vegas, gambling capital of the West. What they call in the States wide open, meaning the sky is the limit and anything goes.
The Golden Gate Bridge spans San Francisco Harbor. Here is a western outpost of American culture. Along the colorful San Francisco waterfront, the fishing fleet, celebrated in the stories of Jack London, keeps the restaurants supplied with an endless variety of great seafood. On Fisherman's Wharf, the fortunate visitor can still take his pick. and the hot crab barrel is a time-honored local institution. San Francisco's ancient trolley cars, about the last of their kind left in this nation of motor buses. San Franciscans take a lot of pride in their individuality. Another short hop, American style, down the Pacific Coast Highway to Hollywood, where the movies are made.
We saw Clark Gable's handprint caught forever in concrete. Joan Crawford, almost in person. And then we found ourselves in the craziest place of all, Disneyland. The home of Mickey Mouse.